In this lesson, we'll be bringing in our preventative comps. Okay, so let's go back over to our infographic split. And our preventative comps are going to be these pieces right here. So let's go ahead and select all of those. We'll hit Control-C to copy them. Come back over here and hit Control-V to paste. Hit that open bracket key. Let's just move those up into position. And I'm going to scale these up so they're a little bit bigger. Turn on my continuously rasterize switch. Let's just put this, just positioning that one right in the middle, the backpack one. And then we'll need to do a little bit of rearranging since we scaled up, just like we did earlier for our other piece. So I'm just going to turn off the eyeballs as we do this. Pull this up a little bit right here. It's all for the pollution one. Let's turn that eyeball on so we can see if we have them aligned. Perfect. Okay, so that's right behind the backpack one. I'm just going to turn those back off. And then we have this one to do. Just nudging that behind there, up one. Perfect. Okay, so now those are all in place. And our nose sign, I'm going to bring up here, pull that to the top. And we'll just place that right in the middle, scale it back down. So whenever we animate this, it's going to fit right on top of everything else, just like that. Okay, so now we're ready. We have this all set up. Let's go ahead again and put these into their respective comps. So we've got our adoption comp. So that's going to be all those pieces right there. We'll just hit Control-Shift-C. We'll call this one Adopt. And I'm going to hit, let's go inside the comp, hit the N key, or excuse me, the B key, and we'll trim that. So it's not going to last for way too long. We just come back over here to where all those begin and hit the open bracket key, and that'll put that right into position, just like that. Perfect. Now let's do our pollution. So that's going to be all of those. Control-Shift-C. We'll call this pollution. Go in here and trim this one. And we'll do it for our last one, which is the backpack. Go back inside that comp, trim this one as well. I keep hitting the wrong key there. Okay, so now those are all in place. Okay, so the first one he talks about is, I believe, pollution. Let's listen to him.
Pollute, being more aware when visiting. Anyone can help by being careful not to litter.
Not to litter and pollute. Okay. So right here where this starts to scale down is where we want this one to come on. So I'm just going to start it a little bit early. And we'll bring the pollution back to this point here. And let's figure out where we need our next one.
By being careful not to litter and pollute. Being more
Okay, so right when he says being, that's where we want that one to start.
Being more aware when visiting reefs
or adopting a reef. That's going to be the last one. So that's all of those pieces right there. Now let's go inside of these comps and do a little animation. So we'll go into the pollution one first, and I need to bring this piece of water down here just so that circle is complete. And these need to move down here as well. Kind of just repositioning this to fit back in here. Great. Okay, so what I want to happen is for this to kind of scale up like an explosion has been made, and the fish to first start out right side up, and then when the explosion goes off, we see that the fish was killed. So kind of a little bit sad, a little bit morbid, but that's why you shouldn't pollute. And I'm saying explosion just because I want it to seem like, you know, something really bad happened in the ocean and that caused it to be polluted. So we'll come over here to pollution. That's going to be what happens first. So let's bring up our scale keyframes, and again, move that anchor point down to the bottom because we want it to look like it's coming up out of the water. And this is at 652, so we can't use our old handy scale recoil preset, but we're pretty familiar with how to do it at this point. So just like that, we can scale that up. And I think it might be nice to maybe have this, instead of just kind of getting bigger like this really quickly, I think we could change it up a little bit by maybe having a middle keyframe here with this sort of scaled in, so it'll kind of grow out a little bit more. And then let's pull this forward a bit more. We'll hit F9 and pull that out on the graph editor, so nice and slow. And let's make this one auto Bezier, so just hold Control and click that. Great, so that's looking really good. Now once this starts to get about to this middle keyframe here, I want these rings to start moving. So we'll go ahead and select these 3 rings, and I'm going to bring up their scale properties. And since this one is at 652, everything else was scaled to 652. We can actually create another animation preset using what we have here. So let's just do that to save ourselves some time. Just select your keyframes, go to Animation, Save Animation Preset. We'll call it Scale Recoil, and let's just call it 652. Save. And now it's already over here because we have Scale Recoil typed in. So I'll just turn those back off, and we'll drop those on to our respective layers. So basically it's going to start coming out like that. Now I want the first one to start here, and then we'll just kind of offset those a bit, just like that, and then trim them so they start on that first keyframe. Great, so that's looking really good. I think maybe they could even begin at the start. That probably will look a little more natural. Great, so that's just really slowly kind of coming out there at the end. And let's even pull these over a little bit. I'll just select all 3 of these keys and just kind of put it right about here. So that happens really slowly at the end. And I think we could even scale this pollution cloud up a little bit more so that that happens more slowly. And I just control clicked that keyframe to make it linear. Perfect. Okay, let's also have our little fish kind of just really slowly swimming from this side over to the other side. Let's make him maybe just a little bit smaller. So we'll hit the P key to bring up his position. And then we're going to move forward. And as that starts to happen, I want him to kind of slow down. So I want him to make it all the way over here by the end. But whenever this happens, we want him to go a lot more slowly. So to make it look like that, we need to pull this over here a little bit. Actually back this way. So he's going more quickly at the beginning and then slows down and just sort of floats. Now we also need to add some rotation so that he flips over whenever that happens. So just start on that keyframe there, hold shift, hit the R key, We'll start him there and give him about 5 frames. And then just turn that back to 0 because he started out. There we go. Perfect. So he kind of even looks like the blast kind of shoots him backwards. So that's better than if he rotated in the other direction. Add some motion blur to all these layers. Maybe even move him down a little bit at the very end. So he kind of sank just a bit. Great. Okay, let's go back out to our main coral infographic. And poor little fish, his friend was killed by pollution. It's just a cautionary tale. And I think maybe we could actually go into this fish's comp or his lair. Let's pull his handle down just so it doesn't get so close to those. Now that we have those in position, we can see what they look like. Great. So we have these comps set up, and we've started the animation. We've also got that no sign here, but I haven't animated that yet. So I'm going to come back in our next lesson and we'll finish animating our other 2 comps and also the no sign, which kind of is referring to the pollution and also to the backpack comp, which is basically going to be saying not to take coral away from sites whenever you go visit them. So right now there's really no transition there. It's just popping on. So we're going to finish off that part in our next lesson.